Jason, like myself, talks a lot about the housing market. We talk about forbearance. We talk about evictions, foreclosures, really everything that has to do with real estate. And I wanted to bring him on here, right? A lot of you guys have said that we should do a collaboration and talk about the housing market. So we're going to do that today. Jason, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this. And I've had the same people on my channel say, hey, I should have Jeb on your channel as well.
A lot of people watch both of our channels. We talk about forbearance. I've been talking about it since the beginning of this whole thing, the effect on the housing market, evictions, all of that good stuff, right? So we have evictions potentially ending on June 30th, the way that it's currently out there. What do you think happens if and when that actually happens on June 30th? Maybe you can even talk about if you think it's going to be delayed there. And do you think the forbearances are actually going to be this massive wave of property coming to the market that's going to change the dynamic?
Such a good question. It's a tough one. You have half an hour.
Yeah, don't go. Give me the easy answer.
So eviction moratorium, I would include the foreclosure moratorium. I think just like you, it's like extended again. And so it's like, we've talked about that. I don't know how many times you get extended last year, 5 times, 6 times, something like that.
5 between
and,
that, yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe a couple of times this year. So when will it end?
Yeah.
No one knows, right? So it's coming up, right? It's like within a couple of weeks actually, or a month and a half.
Yeah, a month and a half.
So is it going to get extended again? Who the heck knows? I mean, we will see. In regards to forbearance, I'm kind of like, I don't think it's going to cause, I know it's not going to cause like this foreclosure tsunami, right? If people are educated and well-informed prior to entering into a forbearance, and when they're in forbearance, do their homework, especially if they know if they have a fairly backed mortgage, meaning the mortgage is backed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, a USDA loan, VA loan, FHA loan. I don't know if I missed anything there.
No, you're good.
Then they have options, right? So you can go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website. It literally lists out, okay, you have this type of loan servicer, then here's your options for you. And in that, it says, hey, you don't have to make a one-time lump sum payment. And that was the big thing when, at least early on during this forbearance, when it was passed, the things like CARES Act in March 2020. So, okay, cool. Well, people can stop paying their mortgages, but how are they going to pay back? I think make a one-time lump sum payment, and then all these things change where all these options were available. They extended it, yada, yada. So I think that it'd be one thing if people enter into forbearance on the exact same day, right? And they're all going to exit at the same time.
Yep.
So now we have people who have entered into forbearance starting way back in March 2020. And by the way, they still can enter into a new forbearance right now if they wanted to.
Yep.
So you have all these people who have entered into forbearance for a long period of time. We're talking about almost a year and a half now. And so people are going to be exiting out of forbearance during different times, right? Some people have a 12-month forbearance. Other people have 18-month forbearance. Some people, have it for a month and they exit it.
Yep.
So we're not going to have like this. I'd be more concerned if we had a forbearance period where people are all going to be exiting on the same month, right? Wherein people are like, okay, well, I'm not going to sell my house if I'm not paying my mortgage right now. Why would I sell my house if my mortgage payment's zero, right? And when I exit forbearance, if I have a fairly backed mortgage, I can just do a loan deferral.
No.
So I think that, go ahead. Yeah, I think that the thought that this is going to cause this foreclosure tsunami is, I mean, in my opinion, ridiculous. I think one thing I'm actually concerned about, though, is that what about these people that are in forbearance that don't know their options? I literally have a client I talked to just a few weeks ago. He said, yeah, I actually didn't, he's been out of a job for a year, didn't know about the forbearance and his options available to him, and he had a fairly back mortgage. And he didn't enter into one because he thought that he had to make a one-time lump sum payment when they exited. And his loan servicer didn't tell him that. So anyways, long story short, I don't see it happening. I think that we will have an increase of foreclosures because of people not knowing their options and still in being bad place after they exit.
Right.
Well, let's see. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, my thoughts are similar to yours. I think there's a couple things playing into my thoughts, right? I think the CFPB has already come out and told the servicers basically like, you need to figure this out. You need to figure out how to work with homeowners exiting forbearance, and not said exactly like that, but that's what they meant. They said they're not going to allow more or less what happened in 2007, 2008 to happen again. Yep. So they're going to work with homeowners, period, end of story. There's no question there. But in the case that somebody doesn't like their option at the end of that forbearance, perhaps they modified the mortgage, payments changed, or now they, for whatever reason, they just don't like these people have more equity in their home now than they've ever had, even with missing 12, 18 months worth of payments. I mean, take somebody in Sacramento. Okay, so they had a $3,000 a month mortgage. Let's just say let's say that was a $500,000 home, hypothetically. $3,000 mortgage, that's a realistic payment for a $500,000 home, $3,000 a month. Let's say that they missed 12 months of payments. That's $36,000. Let's say they missed 18 months of payments. What's that? $54,000. Well, that $500,000 home just went up 20% probably in the last 18 months. I mean,
22.4%.
Yeah. So that $600,000 home now is worth $625,000, $620,000.
The 500 is around $600,000 now, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Or 600,000 because it was 20%. Yeah. So that they didn't, make mortgage payments for 18 months, but they still came out ahead. I mean, it's crazy to say that, but that's exactly what happened. So now those are people that are in a position to sell their homes in a market that needs supply, right? A home comes to the market, it's listed at fair market value. Chances are it's going to get purchased pretty quickly. And then think of a house coming to the market, if there were any that was actually priced below fair market value. What do you think would happen in those cases? You got 20 offers on one house next door. This house comes on less than fair market value. Do you think some of those people bidding on the house next door that aren't going to have an opportunity are now going to bid on this one? Of course. Yeah. I mean, again, to me, I'm making light of it because I feel like it's, we've talked about it so much. And to me, I see that there can definitely be problems. But I just, we have politics aside. Right now, we have an administration that wants to help people, regardless of how you look at that. And so this is going to be one of those things that they don't want. They don't want the blood on their hands, so to speak. They're going to help people exit. And so with that, I don't think that that's going to be a big issue with regards to supply as a whole. But that's enough for that.
Yeah, so, I agree. It'd be interesting. Did you see that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just released a report saying that they're at a 3-year high for mortgage complaints? And so I can just foresee in the next several months going down here towards the end of the year here that they're going to get a lot more of those complaints, right? Because like my client said that I was talking about earlier, he said that that he had a legal right not to pay this mortgage. He had a legal right not to make a one-time lump sum payment when he exited. And they told him prior to entering into forbearance, they basically just read a disclosure about all his rights and whatnot. And after they said that, are you ready to make a payment? Seriously? No, I'm calling you because I want to enter into forbearance. And so I can only see when
there's definitely going to be litigation.
Exactly the same thing, right? Saying, here's your rights. You don't have to make one-time lump sum. Okay, are you ready to make a one-time balloon payment all your missed payments right now?
Yeah. You ready to pay up? After you just told me, no, these people are reading from a script, right? They have no idea. And again, there's going to be so much litigation from this that people don't get because they were told they didn't have to do this. And now it's just, there's going to be a lot of things lost in translation, so to speak. And this is going to drag out. It's going to drag out forever. And even with that said, the last thing I'll say about it is when a property forecloses, and I've said this a million times, it doesn't just foreclose and the people are out of the house and it's listed the next day. This is a process. People can be in their houses for years before that foreclosure actually 100%. Comes to the market. And that spread across the entire United States. It's personally don't think it's going to be a problem, but we'll see. So on more positive news, let's talk about something positive for a minute here.
Positive news. All right, that sounds like a good plan.
So you're out showing property. Let's talk about last couple of offers that you've had accepted. Maybe you've been on the listing side. Maybe you've been on the buyer side. What did those offers look like that got accepted? Were they offers that people waived everything? Were they people, how were they structured? And the reason I ask this is because one of the most common questions that I get outside of should I buy now and all of that good stuff is, what can I do to make my offer stand out? And so I think the best way to help people understand that is to give them examples, right? These are what we've seen. And now if it's an all cash offer and that doesn't help, right? But it's still good to know what people are seeing out there.
So what your question is,
I'm catching you off guard here, so you might have to think about these.
No worries. This is, I mean, I've been a real estate agent for 8 years now, so I kind of know how to write an offer.
Yeah.
Last person we got in contract, they just closed escrow last week. They wrote an offer with, well over the asking price. So let me just give you like kind of a background of our market. So in our market, like I said, 4% of the houses selling for over asking, sometimes way more than that. Last listings I've had sold for like 10 to like 16% over the asking price. And so in our market, if you're a buyer and you're not writing an offer, it obviously depends on the price point, right? And obviously the how they're pricing the house too, right?
No,
but
absolutely.
Vast majority they're pricing it, fairly well. And so more than likely it's going to sell for over the asking price. And so you have to be cognizant of that. And then also in our market, we're always pushing the value of the appraised value, right? So houses that are getting contract are like, it's hard to say whether it's going to get appraised for that price or not. And so what we're seeing in our market is people either waiving the appraisal contingency or putting a cap on the amount they're willing to pay for over the appraised value.
Got it.
So let me give you an example for the viewers out there. So let's just say you're in contract for $500,000. You wrote an offer for, hey, if it doesn't appraise for $500,000, I'm willing to pay $10,000 more in cash. So if it appraises for $490,000, you already have this agreement in place. The buyer's going to be paying $10,000 more in cash to make up for that $10,000 shortfall in the appraisal. So if you're not writing offers like that, or waiving, or putting the cap on the amount, I mean, good luck getting your offer accepted. So that's what we're seeing in our market.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that's pretty common. I think, in my market, it's something similar, right? I'm seeing less of the caps than just saying, hey, we're willing to waive the appraisal contingency.
Waive it all together.
And we're willing to make up the gap, whatever that gap is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to jump in front of you here.
No, it's all right. I mean, yeah, there's a whole big conversation we can have all about that, but we won't. But I mean, the big thing is like having a really good agent you're working with, getting some comparable sales, kind of get an idea about approximately ballpark range what they feel it's going to appraise for. Because you could have something like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's priced so low, where offer is this amount, and we feel actually it's probably going to be really close to what it's going to appraise for. And so that may sway you to do a no appraisal contingency offer versus something with a cap. So it really is dependent on the situation. But as far as like getting offers accepted, I mean, that's a whole new that's a big conversation. But one of the parts I would say advise people who are looking to buy a house right now or are placing offers, if you're in a market where the seller doesn't do any inspections at all, so meaning you're interested in this house, you don't get the disclosure packet saying, hey, here's all these inspections we've done already. Here's all the disclosures we have about the house. Here's all these issues that happened in the past. If you're not getting that, so meaning a lot of information about the property before you get in the contract, and you're writing an offer with no inspection contingency, good luck. I do not do that. I do not advise that to my client. That's very, very risky. Because that appraisal contingency is basically encompassing of approving all matters affecting the property. So that approves all your inspections, whether you not like the house or not. I mean, you can get cold feet and back out during the inspection period. And so not knowing anything about the house, like if you write an offer and they're given no disclosure packet, no inspections whatsoever, and you write an offer with no inspection contingencies, I can see a lot of lawsuits happening. Let's just think of like a seller who knows, I got foundation issues, but hey, cool. All the buyers right now are placing offers with no inspection contingency.
Yep.
So I'm not going to tell them about that. And then they find out they knew about it. I mean, that's just going to open up a can of worms. So there's one little tidbit I can tell people when writing offers. don't do that unless you're given a big disclosure packet with all the inspections already in hand. But
No,
do
agreed.
you agree with me on that, or what do you think?
1,000%. Yeah. I never, ever, 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 ever waive the appraisal contingency. I mean, the home inspection contingency.
Yeah.
Now you can purchase a property as is. You can say, I'm willing to buy it as is. But don't give up your right to get an inspection. Because I think that inspection, again, allows you everything you need to know. And here in the state of California, you could say, hey, listen, I'm willing to do all of this and whatever. You can do that inspection and still decide, you know what, even though I've said I'm willing to purchase it as is, you can still ask for repairs. You can always do
100%.
that. And a lot of times the seller will work with you, especially, if it's items that they had no idea that were a problem. And secondly, in some cases, maybe the issue is way, way worse than you ever thought it could be, and you're willing to walk away, even if you lose your deposit in some cases, just to not be in a position where you own a house that has more issues than something you want to be a part of. So having that contingency in place is crucial. Now, I know up in your market, again, not necessarily Sacramento, but say the San Francisco, like the Bay Area, I know they've been doing for years, where there's these disclosure packets up front. A lot of people are waiving all contingencies up front going in, making the initial offer. But that's the name of the game in that market, right? So that it's not like you're going in blind. You're provided that disclosure package that you mentioned. So you have something to base it off of. In that case, that's a whole different situation. I'm talking about the situation like you mentioned, where you're not provided that documentation up front. But no, couldn't agree more.
For sure. Yeah, and we're seeing, like in San Francisco, that's been a norm for a while. They're given this disclosure packet, and it's pretty common for people to write crazy offers. And it's also really common there too, for whatever reason, where they list a house and they know it's going to sell for $400,000 or $500,000 more than the asking price. So it's really interesting. I don't know why they do that, but it's just kind of like the norm there. But in the East Bay, just on the other side of the San Francisco Bay Area, like Concord, like what do you call it, Walnut Creek, those areas. Right now, we have clients, or not clients, I have a friend who just bought a house out there, and it's completely 100% norm, right? Non-contingent offers, especially no inspection contingency, and you're not given any disclosures or any inspections.
Wow. Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah. No. So are you writing offers, shortening contingency periods, right? I mean, I think that's pretty normal at this point, right? Trying to tighten those.
Like basics. I mean, there's a whole bunch that goes into it. I think it really starts with having an agent develops a really good relationship with a listing agent. So, reaching out, having a phone call conversation, going, hey, I know like you want to get the best, the highest amount for the house, right? But, other than the price, what's your seller looking for in an offer? And I can't tell you how many times where I list a house and you get an offer and you're like, I didn't even know this person even looked at the house. I didn't even talk to this person. Like, how do they know what my client wants? So developing that relationship early on is going to give the seller's agent a peace of mind. Hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. And he's going to be easy to work with. And he asks you what they're looking for, and then you can tailor the offer to what the seller is really looking for. And that could be like small things, right? Like, I don't know, they need like 7 days after the close of escrow to move the furniture out. Cool, we'll give them 14 days, and we'll give them a free rent back on top of that. So there's a ton of things that goes into making this an offer. It's really not just the dollar amount, as you know.
No, I absolutely. And like you said, relationships are key in this market. I talked about it recently on a video that I did where I was talking to other agents across the country, and honestly, relationships was a big thing. Like, I asked these people, how did you, what did you do to strategize and get your client's offer accepted? They said, came down to relationships a lot of times. I knew the agent on the other side. I was able to develop a relationship on the other side, and we, they knew I was a professional and they wanted to work with a professional. So that was key. And another thing I didn't mention in that video, but a lot of agents said, you know what, my client's offer didn't get accepted up front. We were a backup offer, and the first offer fell out and we ended up with the property. I can't tell you how many times I heard that. So if you're a buyer out there and you're worried that the property already has 10 offers on it or whatever, and you're deciding not to make an offer because you just don't feel like you have a chance, just put your best foot forward in those cases, right? Maybe you're not the highest offer. Maybe you don't have the biggest down payment, but maybe your agent can develop that relationship, and maybe you're on the, in the back as a backup, and you end up with the property somehow, right? Not every deal closes escrow just because it goes pending. And I think that's a misconception out there.
For sure. I mean, it's
that
like
everything
that
sells.
house that had, it's that house that's received, or sorry, that seller received 122 offers. I mean, it only sold for $50,000 more than the asking price. So I always tell people, just put your best foot forward. Don't go crazy. Stay within your comfort zone. But in our market, you do have to be fairly aggressive, though.
No, yeah, absolutely. So look, we're 35 minutes in here. Let's maybe wrap it up here. Advice for I think you gave some of it right there at the end. Don't get caught up in the hype and kind of, I tell everybody, just stick to your plan, right? Stay true to what it is you're trying to accomplish. But what would you say right there if somebody were looking to buy a house, they're getting outbid on multiple properties, they're thinking of potentially giving up just because they're seeing, this appreciation and they just feel like they don't have a chance, right?
Yeah.
What are you telling buyers in this market with that type of mentality?
Yeah, I tell, I mean, I've been saying this ever since I've been an agent, but buying a house can be a roller coaster, right? You have like these ebbs and flows of emotions. Like you see it, your dream house online, and you see it, it's amazing, or maybe it's not what you envision it to be. Place an offer, doesn't get accepted, and then you get an offer accepted. So it's like these ebbs and flows of emotions. And so just I would say my advice would be patient if you're looking to buy a house right now. Surround yourselves with professionals that you really know, like, and trust. That includes your loan officer. And then on top of that, because home prices are just so high right now, I talk about this on the channel all the time, but the pace that we're seeing right now is completely not sustainable. Meaning, at some point, home prices have to slow down or go down. Like it's not normal for home prices to increase by 22% in one year, or to
absolutely
have records broken on a national level and in California in March. So it's really odd to see that. So I would just say that, be patient, but if you are looking to buy a house right now, make sure you have long-term time horizons. I personally say 7 to 10 plus years. Who knows when the market's going to go down, but eventually it will. If you're looking to buy a house and thinking like, oh, I'm going to move next year or the next year after that, just rent. I mean, there's no guarantee what's going to be happening in the short term on their market. And so everyone knows if history repeats itself, prices will go down. So I'd say have long-term time horizons, have a stable job, make sure you have an emergency fund. Don't blow all your money, all your savings on a down payment on buying a house, and then you lose your job the next day or something. So that's what I advise people to do right now. And it's a challenging market to say the least. So just be patient.
No, no, absolutely. I think you hit everything on the nail on the head there. Stay patient in this market. Don't get caught up in the FOMO. Don't sacrifice to get a property. Right. That's the biggest thing I tell people all the time.
Especially location, right?
Yes. Don't sacrifice just because you want to own a house. Now, there are some sacrifices. Don't get me wrong. If you want to, a 10 out of 10 on every single house, probably not going to happen. So you're going to have to give up some sacrifices, but don't give up the things that are most important to you just to buy a house. You'll come to regret it. You've got to enjoy going home, and stay patient in the process, right? It's a long-term game, right? Real estate is not something that you look at. It should not be something that you think about, hey, my house just went up 10%. This year I have 10% more. No, that's not how you think of your house. You think of your house as somewhere you live. You got to have a place to stay, and you get taxed. I mean, there's benefits to owning it, of course. But yeah, think of it as just your household, and concentrate on being able to make those payments, have that reserve fund, like you said. And if you come at it from a long-term horizon, you're going to be in a good position regardless. It's not Bitcoin, right? It's, you're not going to be able to
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin. Exactly. Any final parting words there, Jason?
Like and subscribe.
There you go.
Totally. Now
We'll see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.